I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I assume Princeton is there. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
Education. A topic that critical importance not only in the Congo, but increasingly here in our country as well. Yes, I see some comments. We are here in central Alabama, where we can trace some of these earliest efforts of the Presbyterian Church in the United States to engage in world mission with the sending of the two Presbyterian missionaries to the Congo in the 1818.
We can't hear very well.
And during this time when we celebrate contributions of William and Lucy Shepherd and the family Lashley, we also pay tribute, as it's already been mentioned, Mariah Fearon, who, inspired by William Shepherd, made her way to the Congo and developed a fruitful ministry there for many years. But today is also a time when there is a shifting of the sort of missionary activity of the church is going to an end. That was cultivated by the Shepherd, Mariah Fearon, and my family. In the new era beginning now, and like all of the eras, they can both exciting and trouble. Today, we are blessed to begin this conference with a presentation of some of the implications of this new era, led by Reverend Ellen Sherby, Manager of International Global Academical Liaison, Dr. Tilton, Global Academical Liaison. He shares that Jeff, who is here, Africa now, he's got the whole world in his hands. And Reverend Aurora, there, who is a global mission ecumenical liaison for Africa's congregation in the United States. Did I get that right? Okay. They have all long experience as Christians in partnership with fellow Christians around the world and are uniquely qualified to share with us current practice in the PCUSA and the changes that are on the way. So welcome, Alan, President Doug. I have a PowerPoint that Doug is, I think, will see through, and we will also their presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Can everyone hear okay? Just checking. I found it hard to hear a few moments ago, but perhaps we can all do a check-in on that. I see some thumbs up. Good. So the volume is better.
Can we just check? I'm seeing the presenter view on my screen on Zoom, so I'm not sure in the room. Hopefully they're seeing the whole screen. Is that right? Bill?
We see two screens, one with people on the side, and you can see it's very confusing.
Doug, I'm seeing the whole screen plus the future slides.
Yeah, I think that's the presenter view. Can you do it as a full screen display?
Yeah, we don't want presenter
Oui, ça va, on
view.
vous écoute. Merci bien.
Ça va, on écoute bien que... Mais maintenant, ça va, on sait écouter. C'est Ilunga.
Can I share?
Yeah, perhaps we can try switching back to Doug. Bill, is that okay if we give that a try?
Doug Tilton, and there's Ellen Sherby. See up there.
Can you unshare your screen, Bill or John?
Ever in a little gust of into my.
C'est bon.
Oui, nous sommes à l'écoute. Nous attendons que la situation se rétablisse bien.
Yeah. Too many cooks right now.
Hello, Tuscaloosa. Can you unshare your screen, please? And allow me to share?
Stop the share. See if you can get him up on the screen.
There we go.
Great. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ah,
Great. Thank you. And also, I think it would help as we get started
Yep.
that if we're not speaking, and I'll try to remember to do the same for myself, but to mute ourselves when we're not speaking, because it might make it hard it will make it hard for others to hear. So please mute yourselves, or the people who are hosting in Tuscaloosa can also, as hosts, mute those who may be unable to mute themselves. So, well, thank you. I'm glad we've gotten over those, or hopefully we've gotten over those technical difficulties that seem to still be common. Oh, okay. I'm being asked to wait just a moment.
Right, that's the headphone jack. This week it just well, you got all the
He's coming to, he's speaking on his end, right?
You can start talking.
Yeah, let's see how loud.
Tell her to go ahead.
Is the sound better there in Tuscaloosa?
There we go.
Is that better? Okay. You let me know when you're ready for us to
think it's
start.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay. So we will get started. Well, hello everyone in Tuscaloosa and online. I know I can speak for myself and my good colleagues, Doug Tilton and Princeton Baroja, for just thanking you for the warm welcome that you've given us. We are grateful to be with you. And I am sorry that Doug and I could not be with you in person. I also want to, before I continue, thank the interpreters. And I have my message, my meeting chat open. If I am speaking too quickly, please feel free to give me a nudge to say slow down, and I will try to do that. So as we've been already introduced and have introduced ourselves, I'm Ellen Sherby, and I'm here with Doug Tilton and Princeton Baroja, who is there with you in person, those of you who are in Tuscaloosa. And we are part of an office that's currently called Global Ecumenical Partnerships. So we want to kind of unpack some of the work of that office how we've got to where we are today and talk about how we're connecting with partners in the United States and around the world. So our staff members connect with PCUSA congregations. We also connect with presbyteries and synods, which we call collaboratively or collectively mid-councils. And we really are hoping to do that to really to help connect these different bodies in one single family of Christ. We also are connecting with new worshiping communities and diaspora groups to help them be more connected amongst themselves, but also more central to the life of the Presbyterian Church USA. Our staff is also connecting with mission networks and partnership networks to continue to promote strong and healthy relationships and mutuality. And we still value and are very connected with global partners as well. We, as always, want to strengthen those connections, to learn from global partners, to learn and see how God is working in different contexts in the world, and discern appropriate approaches to accompaniment of one another and our collaboration together. And as always, it's important to note there are many other offices across the Interim Unified Agency, such as the Office of Ecumenical and Interreligious Relations, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, the Office of Public Witness, the Presbyterian Hunger Program, Self-Development of People, and many others. So essentially, we at a higher level or at a general level are organized into two teams. Reverend Cheryl Barnes, who also wanted to be with you and was unable due to some conflicting travel that she had for work. She is the manager of the U.S. Ecumenical Liaisons, the U.S. Global Ecumenical Liaisons. And she also manages the Intercultural Congregational Associates. So she's focused on the U.S. People. And I am focused as the manager of the Global Ecumenical Liaisons who are based internationally, with a team of 8 who are around the world and connecting in those ways. But together, we are a single team of global ecumenical partnerships. I also want to lift up, especially today, as we've already mentioned, Reverend Princeton Baroja and Dr. Douglas Tilton, who are in the room. And just to explain who they are and what their roles are, Princeton is the Intercultural Congregational Associate who works with ministries that involve or that serve African immigrants in the United States. And many of you are familiar with Doug Tilton, who formerly worked in the former World Mission Office as a regional liaison in Southern Africa, and is now a global ecumenical liaison working with partners across Africa. So how did we get to this point? How did we come to this? For some of you, this may be new information, and for some of you, this may be familiar. For many years, the PCUSA has been figuring out how to restructure its global engagement. And I would just say...
Le groupe, le membre des groupes pour les États-Unis d'Amérique, tout ce qu'elle est en train de parler, c'est pour les États-Unis d'Amérique. Il a présenté les différentes communautés. Il a même présenté la mission ici au Congo de différents groupes. Maintenant, j'interprète à partir d'ici où on...
Is this a, I'm sorry, is that a question? Is it okay for me to keep going? Okay.
I wonder if we have simultaneous translation or if it needs to be successive. I thought
Should I be slower? maybe
Or
take some more
should you be
pauses.
breaking for translation? That's the question. Can we ask Bill or ask the room that? Should we be stopping to allow ourselves to be translated, or is the translation being done simultaneously?
Dina says for interpretation, Dina to everyone, I am translating.
Okay.
If I see a little bit the situation, I have the feeling that there is someone locally in Congo trying to interpret and had a microphone open, while I understand that in the US there is an interpreter that does simultaneous translation, say. So otherwise I may shoot the chat off to the folks in
Thank you. So we do not need to pause in presentation to allow time for a translation. That's helpful interpretation. Thank you, Christy. That's helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all. We will continue, and please tell me if I need to slow down. So there have been many years during which the Presbyterian Church USA has been discerning how to restructure global engagement, to be good stewards of resources, to be responsive to changes in the world, and different kinds of circumstances, ecclesially. And, in some ways, this is nothing new. I think throughout the history of Presbyterian Church USA world mission, like many different denominations, there have been different moments in the history of our church of figuring out how God is calling us. We know that there have been shifts in global Christianity. The demographic center of Christ Church has shifted over many, from some time ago, not recently, but quite some time now. We can say that the global church is centered in the global South. We also know mission has been decentralized, and a lot of mission work has come into the hands of congregations and mid-councils. So we had some consultations as early as 2018 and into the beginning of 2019 with some groups of partners in different parts of the world, and also with US constituencies from the PCUSA. So there were a series of consultations held in different places regionally, in Africa, in Asia and the Pacific, in Latin America and the Caribbean, and the Middle East and Europe. So those consultations were held in 2018, 2019, and some virtual conversations held as well, even in spite of the pandemic that interrupted some of our connections.
There you go. So one of the outcomes of these conversations was a commitment to trying to explore ways that the PCUSA could be more accountable to its global partners. Beginning towards the end of 2022, the PCUSA brought together a group of leaders from a whole cross-section of our global partners to talk about how this could be done. These interactions led to the establishment of a Global Partners Roundtable consisting of 15 members identified in consultation with global partners and reflecting a balance of factors like age and ethnicity, race, gender, sexual orientation, ecclesial status. All of these things were taken into account to try to get the most balanced group of folks possible. Although we're still developing protocols for how the Global Partners Roundtable will interface with PCUSA, and decision-making structures in the PCUSA. We do know that the 226th General Assembly, which will meet in Milwaukee in 2026, has reserved 2 of the new partner advisory delegate positions for members of this Global Partners Roundtable.
Est-ce que depuis Basaki nini wana ezokomba na ndako? Fenêtre. On va travailler maintenant.
So in the meantime, the 225th General Assembly, which met in 2022, voted to form a 12-member commission to oversee and facilitate the unification of the Office of the General Assembly and the Presbyterian Mission Agency, the 2 main agencies of the PCUSA. They voted to bring those together into one agency. And they established this commission of 12 members, which was granted wide-ranging powers to restructure offices in order to achieve this goal. Oops. How's that happening? Shortly after the 226th General Assembly last year in 2024, the decisions reached by the Unification Commission began to be announced and rolled out across the church. In October, the 2 former agencies transitioned to form a single agency, which for the time being is being called the Interim Unified Agency, IUA, and it has made extensive structural changes that were announced in November of 2024. These included things like assigning some of the responsibilities of the Presbyterian Peacemaking Program and the Office of Theology and Worship to other offices. And then again in March of 2025,
estimé à 400 millions de dollars. Juste un petit mot dans les commentaires et abonnez-vous pour en savoir plus.
It was announced that World Mission would transition to become the Office of Global Ecumenical Partnerships. And so our office succeeds the work that was done by World Mission. And since that time, we've been engaged in a progressive and ongoing process of articulating new roles for global ecumenical liaisons and discerning new opportunities for collaboration within these 2 teams that Ellen was describing, with other denominational staff and offices, with PCUSA constituencies, and with global partners, both ecclesial and community-based. So although there are some major differences between World Mission and Global Ecumenical Partnerships, there's also a lot of continuity, and I think we'll explain a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you, Doug. I've had to switch technology because I'm having trouble with my computer again, so I apologize for that. One of the things that has remained the same is our commitment to working in a model of mission that is mutual, that aspires to partnership, and I would say even deeper forms of partnership. So it has been helpful for me to reread the Presbyterian Church USA's policy that was approved by our General Assembly many, many years ago in 2003, that is called Presbyterians Do Mission and Partnership. You can see on your screen the points there that are the aspirations of being together and working together in a mission that is in a model of partnership. And so that is one of the policy statements that this new iteration of our global work together sits on as a foundation. The international team of global ecumenical liaisons continues to relate to global partners and to help to make grants available to really important and life-changing work from the donations that have been sent in to ECO accounts and for endowment funds. The Global Ecumenical Partnership team members, including all of the global ecumenical liaisons and the intercultural congregational associates, continue to be available to networks like yours, to congregations, to mid-councils, to be resources in helping to accompany you as you aspire to have healthy and faithful and mutual mission relationships. However, as you know, there are fewer staff working in these kinds of roles, and it is a different model. So we may not always be able to attend to every meeting. And I think this is a case in point. Doug was unable to be there in person in Tuscaloosa, and neither was Reverend Cheryl Barnes able to be with you in person. I want to be clear that the Presbyterian Church USA, we are no longer sending long-term mission personnel to work under the direction of global partners. And we recognize that a lot of what we do and what we will continue to do really is building on the legacies of the work we have had in the past, in those relationships and connections of mission workers or missionaries in the past with partners. So we want to acknowledge and honor that important work that on the shoulders of which, you might say, we are now standing, those faithful and relationships between people who have served as mission co-workers together with global partner colleagues. And I want to provide an example of some new ways or some kind of enhanced ways, you might say, of incarnational presence and ministry and new ways of understanding our call to mission globally. And that is to just give some examples from the Young Adult Volunteer Program. There, and before I jump into the example, so you can take the quote off just for a minute, Doug. I want to say there are a number of Young Adult Volunteer Program sites in the United States and around the world. 4 of those sites are international. There's one at the US-Mexico border. There is one in Peru. There is one in Korea. And there's one in the Philippines. There are some other programs internationally that are beginning to be formed. So I won't name those yet because they are in a formation stage. But the story I'm bringing to you today, so hold that quote for just a second. Doug. I just want to tell a little bit the story and have us focus on the photo. There are 8 young adult volunteers serving in Peru this year. And the international young adult volunteer site coordinators of those 4 international sites I've mentioned are also considered part of the work of global ecumenical partnerships. So in this photo, you can see at the far right of the screen, it's maybe hard to see, but is Jenny Valles. She is a Peruvian. She is the International Young Adult Volunteer Site Coordinator in Peru. And there are 8 young adult volunteers serving this year in the site, 6 Peruvians, 1 Colombian, and 1 Honduran. So how did that happen? We used to have mostly young adult volunteers from the United States going out to serve internationally. Well, Jenny began working on this program more on a local or national and then later Latin American basis during COVID, when we were unable to have much movement and young adults were not going to the Young Adult Volunteer Program in Peru or anywhere else. One of the young adults participating in the program in Peru this year and last year. Her name is Milagros, and she is fourth from right, wearing a hat. Milagros has gotten involved in the last couple of years in some important social movements in Peru, supporting families who've experienced loss from violence in the country. And she herself got involved in this and became kind of an advocate for social justice and for families in Peru who have experienced a need for justice seeking, because her brother was killed 2 years ago by the national police in Peru when he was attending to a protester. Her brother was a doctor, and he was there attending to one of the persons who had been wounded, and he was shot in the back. So Milagros got really involved in this work there of coming alongside families of victims of state violence. And she felt, I think, very isolated in some ways, from what I understand from some stories that Jenny has told. And now she's become a leader and was invited to participate in the Young Adult Volunteer Program to serve with the Evangelical Theological Education Association. And so I want to share on the screen this quote that, and I'll read it aloud because it may be difficult to see rather, if you're on a phone, for those who are online. Jenny wrote in a story about this, about Milagros and about her participation and what's going on in our global work. We, the church, have work to do. We have participated in or ignored the oppressive and divisive colonial project that rages on. It is not too late for us to welcome and walk with young people like Milagros and her fellow Peruvian Yavs, who will spend this next year growing in their understanding of themselves and forming bonds of solidarity that will carry them forward.
There we go. Sorry, I'm working with two screens. It's sometimes hard to unmute. As Ellen mentioned earlier, in certain respects, the work of the international part of the Global Ecumenical Liaisons team will have a certain amount of continuity with the work that was done in the past by regional liaisons. We will continue to be a resource for mid-council partnerships and mission networks as they pursue deeper and more mutual relationships around the world. One example of the long-standing partnership is the one between Denver Presbytery and the Presbytery of Zimbabwe of the Uniting Presbyterian Church in Southern Africa. One of the first things that I did when I became regional liaison for Zimbabwe, or when Zimbabwe was added to the area where I was working, was to attend a summit, a partnership summit of the PZDP, as they call it, the Presbytery of Zimbabwe and the Denver Presbytery Partnership. I have continued to be a part of this community of mission practice for the last 16 years. And it's been one that has really lifted up, in particular, the importance of relationships, really more than participation in projects and giving to support work that's going on in Zimbabwe. The quote on your screen from Reverend Dr. D. Cooper, who serves as Presbytery executive in Denver Presbytery, she says, acknowledging the differences of our resources, which is important, The partnership wasn't just going to become.
Yeah, I wouldn't be keeping it Thursday. I wouldn't come Friday or Monday. That's what they talk about.
Good folk, thank you. Wasn't just going to become a donor participant model, but it was truly an engagement of shared leadership and shared relationships. So during COVID, when things began to become problematic because folks weren't able to get together in person and everything was happening online and through Zoom, there were some misunderstandings and some hurt feelings which threatened the partnership in some ways. And so both parties to the partnership had asked if I could help to facilitate conversations that could kind of get them back on track and communicating well again. And so we did that, and I was really pleased to be invited in February to attend the renewal of the partnership from the Harare side and to be on hand in Denver in August of this year when the partnership was renewed from the Denver side as well. In addition, I've encouraged folks in this partnership to become more deeply involved in the Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, USA mission network, and have highlighted Denver's emphasis on mutuality, on human relationships, and on shared ministry as an example to other network members. As a result, the network has also placed these values at the heart of its work, too. It has two working groups, one on theological education and one on health concerns. And they've been pioneering in seeking new ways to connect the ministries of all the partners involved across the four countries to encourage a network of connections rather than bilateral relationships between the PCUSA and individual partnerships. The Theological Working Group, for example, has piloted a platform for connecting students at 3 seminaries: Chisefu Theological College in Zambia, Reformed Church University in Zimbabwe, and Princeton Seminary in the USA, so that they can gain greater understanding of one another's contexts for ministry and can be exposed to different perspectives that can enrich their own respective ministries. So one of the roles of global ecumenical liaisons is to be alert for opportunities for new ways of connecting and giving others a glimpse of some of the new things that God is doing through Christ's family around the world. I'll turn over to Princeton, who can share a little bit about his work. I'm not hearing Princeton.
Yeah.
Can
you hear me now?
You're on the screen.
Yes, now I can. Thanks.
Okay. So building on that, what Doug has said, after that consultation in 2018, Nairobi, Kenya, we came back and participated at the big tent in Baltimore. And we found out that the African constituents were not duly represented within the framework of our structure. So the picture on the left was when the Africans gathered, about 40 leaders gathered in Baltimore at that big tent and formed the African Presbyterian Leaders Alliance, which is akin to Caucasus that we have. since the GMN they said we cannot create more caucuses, we formed an alliance that has unified the African pastors. My office resources over 125 African congregations CPC USA within the US. Since I came into that office in 2017, I've resourced over 207 churches, but I have active congregations of 125. And last weekend, over 30 of us met at the Rockies and at our national conference. And the picture on the right is the African Congolese Fellowship in Charlotte, North Carolina. This private congregation has been in Amity Presbyterian Church for a couple of years, and not knowing that Myers Park, which is down the street, has a ministry in Congo, and I'm the pastor because he used to pastor in Dallas, and we made a connection. And I hinted him about that group of folks who were there. It could also be a resource to the ministry they're doing in Congo. It was a joy to find out that they eventually made the pictures we see on the right there as the first time they met together. And this refugee community is resourcing the city of Charlotte with tremendous community gardens where they supply vegetables and some fruits to Catholic charities and those who are helping refugees. And that's what the partnership of Connect From is doing. And when I heard about this meeting, I thought it was dog and Ellie thought it was good, nice for me to be. That makes some connections again. Thank you. It's good to be with you.
So the Interim Unified Agency is still undergoing transformation and change, and we can expect some further changes in the weeks and months to come, although these will probably be primarily ones of structure and nomenclature rather than further staff changes. But we really invite—
You're muted, I believe.
I'm not. You can't hear me?
Okay, Doug, try.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you fine.
Okay. Can you hear me in the room? We're good. Shall I carry on? Because I'm sharing the presentation, I'm not able to see the chat. So I need an audio confirmation, please.
I think we need confirmation from Tuscaloosa because I think I think the folks on Zoom, we can hear you well. I'm not sure if that's the case or not for Tuscaloosa.
Come in, Tuscaloosa.
No, he's not muted.
I'm not muted. Nope. Folks on Zoom can hear me.
It looks like Bill said, oh, go ahead. Bill said to wait, that they cannot hear you in the room in Tuscaloosa. So your feeling about that was right. So hang on a second. We will give you the signal, or they will.
Thank you. Just because I can't chat. So.
Okay. Well.
I think when they switched over to allow Princeton to speak, I think that cut off sort of the Zoom stream somehow, or the audio stream from Zoom.
So Bill says you may start over from this slide.
Righto, thank you. So the interim unified agency is still undergoing changes. We're in fact expecting some more in the next few weeks, although we don't think that that will involve staffing changes, more changes in adjustments to structure, maybe some name adjustments, etc. But it's an ongoing process. And we want to, though, continue to work together with mission networks, with mid-councils, with congregations, with partners. We invite you to come and see and to work with us through those changes. Some of the ways that you could continue to journey with us will be by praying with and for us. We need gifts of wisdom, discernment, and humility as we live into our new roles, just as we need greater sensitivity to the opportunities for consultation, collaboration, and consensus building, and to find ways to include all these actors. Princeton talked a little bit about the work that he's doing, and one of the challenges for us is to figure out ways to come up with programs that kind of bridge the local and the global. And so we invite your prayers for that as well. A second way would be by following the PNS, the Presbyterian News Service stories that appear on the PCUSA website and other communications coming from the denomination. We know that there has not been much communication directly with constituencies or with partners or with mission networks. And we are trying to do better about that. It's a concern that we have raised often, and I hope that there will be more opportunities to hear from PCUSA about how these changes are affecting the work that the denomination is doing and the ways that we can partner and collaborate together. A third way is by continuing to support partner ministries in ways that respect the agency of our partners. Now, we know that people want to be part of ministries that touch their hearts and which resonate with their particular concerns. And that's really what our extra commitment opportunity, or ECO, system was set up to provide for. We still have ECO accounts for most partners. And in some cases, we also have specialized accounts for particular ministries. So folks working in the Congo will know about, for example, the Congo Education account or the Orphans and Vulnerable Children Ministry accounts. For most general partner support accounts, you are permitted to designate a gift for a particular ministry or a particular aspect of that ministry. But we really would, I think, encourage you to do so thoughtfully and judiciously, because we want you to give where your heart is, but we also recognize that designations can tie our partners' hands and restrict their capacity to be able to allocate gifts where they are needed the most and to address new priorities as they come up. So it's also difficult when gifts are small. Small gifts are, of course, very welcome, but when you have one particular gift that's designated for one particular thing, it can be a hardship for partners to figure out ways to use that effectively and to exercise the good stewardship over those funds. So we would encourage you to continue to support partners through gifts to ECO accounts. And finally, we would also invite you to support the work of Global Ecumenical Partnerships. An ECO account has been established specifically for the Office of Global Ecumenical Partnerships, and that ECO number is on the screen, E052199. We do need funds to help this new model to move forward and to enable us to achieve our vision.
And finally, we do want time to receive any questions that you have for us. But we just want to uplift this, that we are all called to God's mission. We are called together. We are called across our churches and as a network and across networks and between churches and even with other faiths and with civil society groups and communities. An image that has been helpful for me to think about mission is one that pops up in the Presbyterian Church USA Book of Order and also in the Presbyterians' Do Mission and Partnership Policy statement. And that is the concept of God's table of mission, that mission is like a table to which we are all invited. And if we can imagine that as a place where we can all bring food to eat and we can all enjoy one another's foods and have companionship around that table, that is something that can carry us through to some new ways that the church may be called to live into God's mission now and in the future. I think what is key about that is that we have to pay attention who's at the table. Or how much room am I, Ellen? Maybe I'm taking up too much room with the dish, with the food that I'm bringing. Or I don't even want to try the other foods at this table of God's mission. So this is a helpful, I think, example for us to think about mission together and that we are all part of this call. So we will go to the next slide simply to share some contact information. The email addresses for Reverend Cheryl Barnes, who is the manager of the U.S. Global Ecumenical Liaisons, and my email, Princeton's and Doug's, and then finally a general email box for Global Ecumenical Partnerships. Thank you again for receiving us, for bearing with us in this time of change, and also today with some of these technical difficulties. Thank you very much. We are open to questions.
If you have questions or folks online, if you want to send a message, a question, you can send it by chat or through the WhatsApp number that I put in the chat. Any questions for Doug, Alan, Princeton, from you all here in the room? Yes. Good, microphone coming to you. Okay. Ellen and Doug, hi, it's Ramon. How are y'all doing? The comments about making donations. One thing you talked about, don't tie the hands of the partners too much where you're making the donations. And that I understand, but it's also then very important when you make a donation like that, to get feedback on how the donation is used. Feedback to the giver. It's so important, I know for all of us, for us in congregations, to be able to feedback to our congregations how money is used when we make donations. To be able to go back and say, hey, this is how it's used. So keep that in mind if you don't, if we're not specific on how it's donated. Many times, though, we do try to make it specific because we work with the partners. Partners come back to us and say, hey, we need motorcycles or teacher training. And so we do try to, when we make it specific, it's usually because of feedback from the partner. Ellen, Doug?
Yeah, I'd say thanks for that. We do always need to get reports from partners on the way that gifts are used. Oftentimes those are consolidated. So there may be gifts from a number of different sources that go to support a particular program. I think that in the past, at least in my experience, we often tend to have ongoing communications with major donors. It's a little bit harder to always supply feedback to a large number of very helpful and needed smaller donors, but that can create a bit of a challenge for communication. I would say that it's always helpful if you are making a donation through the ECO structures and you would like to have some feedback. It's always good just to drop a note to, in this case, me, and let me know that the gift has been made. I mean, I can see it in our financial system, but it's not always the case that designations get fully captured. So if it's a substantial gift, I would really encourage you, please, to be in touch with me and let me know that it's happening and the purpose and what your needs are for feedback and reporting.
Thank you, Doug. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions qui viennent du Congo? If there are questions for Congo, please put them in the chat. You got a chat question? Where's the microphone on the screen? Those are not questions for this yet. Go down. We'll come back to those. Are there any for Congo? No, it's okay. All right, come down. Yes, Joanna, we will be giving some more reports on what's going on right now. We started out this morning with a conversation about the partnership. This was when Ellen Kirby could be available. We give a special thanks to Doug Tilton, who is in Thailand on the other side of the world, and it's probably midnight or thereabouts where he is. So we appreciate both of them taking the time today to be with us. This conversation probably should have been later in the week, but their schedules dictate that it be happening now. You see other questions, Douglas? Okay.
I just wondered if maybe Ellen might be in a position to address the question that you put in the chat, Bill, about YAB sites in Africa.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there is another site that's kind of in development, and it has a similar model. I don't know that I can uncover like exactly where it is because I'm not the young adult volunteer coordinator, but I am aware of a site that is being looked at in a particular country in Africa, and I really like the idea that was put in the chat of having a location of a site in Africa that could include exchanges among partners within Africa, which is essentially what's happening in Peru with among partners, youth, the young adults of partners in Latin America. So I can very happily bring that observation back to the young adult volunteer program manager, Destiny Hodges. I think that's great. Thank you.
And I think that's a great example too of how we hope to be in collaboration in future. We need ideas and suggestions from constituents and from networks, et cetera. And that's always helpful to share those ideas. We can't always do everything, but it's always good to be having those kinds of conversations. I will say also, if you would like at least me, I can't speak for Ellen, but if you would like me to be available later on for further questions, you were suggesting, Bill, that maybe this conversation should happen later in the Mission Network meeting. I am certainly more than willing. I am actually back in South Africa now. I came back a little bit early for this meeting, and also because I was in part of the Presbyterian Advocacy Hour yesterday, and it was difficult to manage both of those and still get back, so I came back a little bit early. But I would be more than happy to join you at some stage if that would be helpful.
Thank you, Doug. Did you see the question that flashed on the screen about former co-workers? The chat.
I would just say I see it posted twice, and I can jump in. Maybe Doug or Princeton or others may have other wisdom in the room to join this. I think so. The question, I'm going to read it aloud because I'm assuming not everyone can see the questions well if they are on a device like a phone. How are the expertise, the great expertise of former mission co-workers in the Congo being utilized by the PCUSA in the continuing relationships between U.S. churches and the CPC, CPK in the Congo? Well, so for one thing, I would like to say is Christy Boyd is a perfect example. Right now, she helped colleagues of ours and different church leaders in the United States connect in a good and meaningful way with Reverend Dr. Mart Maleke Kondemo, who came at I think the invitation of the Presbyterian ministry at the United Nations, but also visited some churches and was visiting our national Peace USA offices this past week and over the weekend in Louisville. And Christy was really helpful in encouraging and, letting us know even or helping to make the connection with our colleague Sue Ream, just to make sure we knew that Reverend Mart had time in her schedule and maybe could come to Louisville. And so that was very, very helpful. And I would just add to that before I pass it over to either Doug or anyone else really in the room, because I think this is a question that could come back to all of us. How are our, former mission coworkers and the expertise of others who know well different contexts? So perhaps, Congolese Americans who know well both a U.S. context and the context of their home country. There may be special kinds of expertise they can also bring to relationships and conversations. So, and there's probably plenty of ways we don't know how Christy and Jeff and the Streshleys have been helpful in the past months to some of those partner connections and relationships. So I hope that makes sense. And I'll stop there to see if if Doug, do you want to add anything or anyone else wants to jump in?
I just want to say a word of appreciation for Jeff and Christy in particular, because as we have gone through this transition process, they have been extremely generous with their time and knowledge and talents to kind of keep those connections going, to inform me, to kind of help bring me up to speed on some of the partnership relationships that I'm working to try to take forward. And so there was no obligation upon them to do so, but their commitment to the Congo, to partners in the Congo, their desire to see the Peace USA continue its strong history of relationship, they have been extremely generous in helping out, and I've relied greatly on their knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, we're grateful that Jeff is with us and the specialists as well. We'll be hearing from all of them a little later on. Okay, I think we are wrapping up here. Charles is going to come and tell us about lunch. To our friends in Congo, we say good night, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow afternoon. We'll be rejoining you in our morning, your afternoon. And we thank each person who has taken the time in Congo to be with us. We appreciate your interest, and we look forward to future opportunities to be together. Charles?
Thank you, Bill. So it's time for us to depart from this facility to go across through the gate to the A Student Center where the cafeteria for Stillman College is and have lunch. You recall lunch is on your own. You pay for your lunch as you go through the line. It's an open cafeteria with great food. At least it has been when I've been there. And so we hope that you will enjoy. But I have 3 or 4 quick other things to mention before. One is you've seen Kelly and Jeff taking pictures. Kelly is back there taking pictures. Those pictures, if you have any objection to her taking your picture, just say, well, nope. And she will not. Otherwise, those pictures will be used only for purposes of this work. Okay, that's one thing. This afternoon, Wi-Fi will be available since we don't have the challenge of connecting to the condo this afternoon and early evening. So Wi-Fi will be available. Isaac, if you need to hook up this afternoon, catch up back home, any of you can do that through the Wi-Fi. And we need to have some Wi-Fi, the number available at some point, Joe. Okay, that's the second thing. We're going to walk over to the cafeteria. We'll need to be back here at about 1 o'clock. So it's going to be a relatively short meal time. But we encourage you when you're there not to sit necessarily together with each other. The idea will be if there are students around, just go up and sit with them, talk to them, faculty, staff, get to know a little bit about the students who are and the faculty and staff who are part of this really important college here. Okay, I think that's all on the list. Joe?
Lunch is $10. And you all know young people these days. So, you know, if you sit next to them and try to strike up a conversation, they may not just blossom with personality. So be understanding, you know, so just caveat in that regard.
But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do that. Relax and take it easy and do that as well.
Later, for the cafeteria.
It's not one fight. They do debit cards, they do credit cards, they do lots of that.
So yeah. I'll take you over there, I'll take you to the elevator.
Okay, and so we're gonna go through the driveway gate here near the garden post, and we're gonna walk down the street a little ways, go in through the courtyard. Jeff?
These things here?
Yes, you can leave your things here. I think it'll all be safe. Don't leave your purses and your money because I have to take something. Okay, let's, Bill is asking to offer thanks. So if you will join me in prayer. Well, God, we thank you for you. We thank you for your Son, our Christ. We thank you for the Holy Spirit who dwells among us. We thank you for each other. We thank you for our partners in the Congo. We thank you for folk who serve on the mission field, no matter where they are, but especially in the Congo. And we ask your blessings upon us that we can share our talents, share our resources, share our love, share our caring with people everywhere, but especially in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We ask that as we eat this food, that it will serve to nourish our bodies, so that our bodies can be strong, our minds can be clear, and we can be a better service of your hands and your feet. Bless this food that it will nourish us today, but not just for today, but always into the future. In the name of our Christ, Jesus, amen. Amen. Okay, Joe's going to take the first group out. Just follow him. There are restrooms here, of course. Restrooms there once you get there. Hey, Robert. So,